if Albertans want to compare what the NDP did in 4 years versus what we did in 4 years, let's have at it. Let's let that be the ballot question. And I can tell you, with them losing 187,000 jobs in the 4 years they were there, and we added over 220,000 jobs, what Albertans are going to be caring about.
Adam Sos here for Rebel News on location outside of Braeside Automotive with an AlbertaDecides.com update. Premier Danielle Smith is expected to make an election campaign announcement at this event in southwest Calgary today. So without further ado, we'll head in and hear what she has to say.
A re-elected UCP government would be committed to keeping this momentum going with a plan to make our economy more resilient while building on our strengths. We are providing Albertans with a commitment to not raise business taxes on job creators or impose job-killing regulations. We want Albertans to know that their jobs are secure. We want you to know that there will be opportunity for your children and grandchildren. That is why I'm proud to announce a number of initiatives today, starting with the Alberta Job Growth and Diversification Strategy, the United Conservative Party's forward-looking plan to continue growing our economy, create new opportunities, and move the province and Alberta families forward. United Conservatives are committed to growing the economy, attracting more skilled workers, and making Alberta more affordable so young people can see themselves staying and growing their families right here. Unlike the NDP leader who has said she will raise taxes on businesses, sending investment fleeing away from the province and the jobs along with it, the choice is clear. Do you want a government focused on building a strong, stable Alberta? An Alberta focused on job creation, growing the economy, and attracting investment? A government focused on stability for your families and businesses? A government you can count on to keep your taxes low and not overburden you with arbitrary and excessive red tape? Or do you want to go backward with the NDP, who would raise taxes and would introduce more red tape that would drive away businesses, jobs, and investment? We can't afford to put Alberta's growth and opportunity at risk with the investment and job-crushing policies of the NDP. Our responsible economic plan has been working, and the Alberta Job Growth and Diversification Strategy will continue moving Alberta forward. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take questions.
Alex Dhaliwal, Rebel News. My question is for the Premier. So late last year, Onion Lake Cree First Nation took the Alberta government to court over the Sovereignty Act. They say that the province has not done sufficient consultations with Indigenous Albertans, and they claim the Act infringes upon their freedom and agency. Can you, Premier, speak more to the consultation efforts done by your government with Indigenous Albertans on the Sovereignty Act?
If you look in the very first couple of clauses of that act, you will see it affirms the section 35 rights of our Indigenous peoples, affirms that the treaty rights of our Indigenous peoples, and the act was never about interfering or impacting those rights at all. It was about talking about our Alberta's relationship with Ottawa, which is defined under Section 92 and 92A of the Constitution. But I can say that we have a tremendously positive relationship with First Nations as a result of some of the measures that we've taken. Our Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation loan guarantee program has been incredibly successful. There's a group of 23 First Nations who bought into a pipeline structure in Northern Alberta. They're getting an 11.65% stake. It's going to create long-term diversified revenue streams, and we want to do more of that. So that's part of the reason why we're announcing an expansion to this program today, so that it's not just $1 billion. We can do loan guarantees up to $2 billion. And we're going to continue to support our Indigenous communities that way, because we think economic reconciliation is going to be foundational to having true reconciliation with our First Peoples.
Adam Sos, Rebel News. One of the potential causes of this divide in the UCP over the past few years has been the inability of MLAs, nominally Drew Barnes, Todd Lowen, to name a few, to speak out when they disagree with leadership or when they have personal concerns. Under Danielle Smith UCP, will MLAs be able to speak out and represent their constituents?
Well, I prefer to have a leadership style where if anyone has a concern, they can raise it with me directly. And I'm very open to talking about how we can accommodate different concerns. We have an open and robust caucus discussion. And we also have the ability to vote freely in our caucus and our cabinet. I don't think we've encountered any circumstances under my leadership where we haven't been able to resolve our issues around certain circumstances or certain pieces of legislation. But it seems to me like that process is working, and I'm going to continue working, because I think if you treat people with respect, they will treat you back with respect. So that's just my leadership style. I'd need a specific example if there's anything in particular that you think that that hasn't lived up to that. But I think our MLAs are really excited that we're part of a united conservative movement. They have a lot of input in the decisions that we're bringing forward. I can tell you some of the issues that we brought forward today. The agri-food processing tax credit came out on the campaign trail when Rebecca Schultz said we need to do this, and we did it. We have a number of our MLAs who are concerned that we're not recognizing international credentials. It's the reason why we're going to develop a fast track to affirming those. It's everybody has raised concern about how do we keep our kids here, our graduates here. And those are the issues that come out through the caucus and cabinet process. And so we're announcing a tax credit today that will keep more of our graduates here and attract more people here. So all of these things are really generated from the great ideas of my caucus. I think we've got a fabulous relationship, and I'm going to keep that going.
I am now joined by MLA for Taber-Warner, Grant Hunter. I guess first off, one of the sort of major subjects and topics of discussion around this election is that it's so just going to be decided in Calgary. Representing one of the rural constituencies, do you feel like those constituencies are being neglected or ignored in any way?
No, we've got some great policies that are helping rural Alberta. Down in my area, we're doing a huge expansion in agri-food processing. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that's happening with irrigation expansion, 230,000 irrigated acre expansion, Highway 3 twinning between Taber and Burdett. In fact, that whole Highway 3 twinning is going to happen over the next 10 years. The Premier's already announced that. Look, the South, they sometimes say that they're forgotten South. Not anymore. The South has received a lot of love from our government and will continue to in the future. So,
is there a bit of a sense of dread, though, that ultimately it could fall to the NDP because of cities deciding? Is that a concern among your constituents?
You know what? I actually grew up in High River, just south of Calgary here, and lived here a couple of years when I was first married. You know what? Calgary's a conservative town. And remember in the last election, 2019, the polls all had it wrong. Mm-hmm. The polls said that we were, 7 to 8% between the NDP and us. We were up 7-8%. At the end of the day, we were 22% on election day. Election day is going to determine this, and I honestly think that Calgary is going to vote Conservative.
Finally, if you don't mind, there has been a lot of sort of emphasis within the media, and certainly from Rachel Notley, that wants to maybe stray away from the policy issues and wants to specifically go after Premier Danielle Smith. Do you think that there's sort of a reason behind that? Do you think they're unable to compete on the policy issues? What do you think is the driving force behind those attacks?
Yeah, I think that they have 4 years that they can't run on. They got a terrible 4 years when they were in government. And so what do you got to do? You got to go after character assassination, and that's what they're doing. I see this on a regular basis with these guys. So, if Albertans want to compare what the NDP did in 4 years versus what we did in 4 years, let's have at it. Let's let that be the ballot question. And I can tell you, with them losing 187,000 jobs in the 4 years they were there, and we added over 220,000 jobs, that's what Albertans are going to be caring about.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another United Conservative Party event is in the bag, with Premier Danielle Smith making further announcements motivated and directed towards drawing people into the province, creating jobs, bringing skilled workers here, and keeping skilled workers within the province. I also had the opportunity to speak to MLA Grant Hunter from Taber-Warner and talk to him about the key issues facing this election, nominally those municipal concerns that will likely determine the outcome of this election. I also spoke to him about the barrage of personal attacks that Danielle Smith has endured from numerous media outlets, as well as Rachel Notley. As always, I want to encourage you to continue going to albertadecides.com for all of our coverage on this critical battle for Alberta. And thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Sos. To ensure that you don't miss any of our exclusive coverage, in-depth analysis, and interviews on the subject of the Alberta election, I'm encouraging you to remember to check in regularly at albertadecides.com.